And welcome back to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. We're talking with Joseph Ranseth. Joe, you're an author. What's the name of your book? I don't even have the name of your book here.
Well, I've written called the Purpose Driven Manifesto, and people can actually get a free copy of that on my website if they like, and it's also included in a print version on Amazon. But I'm happy to give it away for free on my website to anyone who's interested. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, good. Well, we'll mention that again towards the end of the show. So, Joseph, I'm curious. How does one end up being a transformationist and somebody who's all about creating movements? Well, I really love what you said earlier about, in those quotes about, the distinction and synonymity of the inner and outer world. And a lot of times we talk about, starting movements, and people interpret that in different ways. They want to sell a whole lot more of what they have, or they want to create the social movement. And that really aligns, with an outer result. But the way that we get there, to a lot of people's dismay, is not just on doing a bunch of outer mechanics. It really goes into doing the inner work. And so this concept of transformation, obviously, is something that we all need to undergo. But back in the, I think it was 15th or 16th century, there was a scientific theory suggested called transformationism, which, it was kind of a blend of the theory of evolution and spirituality. But basically what it said is that every organism, grows and evolves because of this push from something higher, from the divine. And that's where evolution comes from, is divine push from above. And while that may have not been a fully valid scientific theory, I believe that that's something that we can all relate to, that there is something within us that's speaking to us, that's calling us to a more full expression of who we are as individuals and as our divine nature. And when we go through those challenges, when we go through those successes, all of those things that we see in life, that stir an emotion from us, are calling us to a higher level of transformation, to purify us, and to help us go through that process. And so, you mentioned, the great movements and the leaders who started those movements. As I studied them, there's an outward blueprint that all of us can follow and we can look at. But that outward blueprint does not work to the same degree without the inner transformation. And to me, that was what really, captured my interest, was, okay, we can see the outward signs of how Gandhi did it or how Martin Luther King did it. Right. But what was it about Gandhi? What was it about Dr. King? What was it about the other transformational leaders that allowed them to have the impact and result that they had? Because so many other people have tried doing similar things, but there was something about that inner transformation work that they did that gave them a power to create the result. And to me, that's where, I think we're all called to, and that's, part of my service is trying to share some of those principles with folks. So for yourself, when you sort of began this path of your own transformation, what were some of the, I don't want to call them roadblocks, but what were some of the stepping stones that were a little bit difficult for you to sort of climb over, or what were some of the key things that you found you needed to transform in order for you to have the impact that you wanted to have? Yeah, that's a great question, and I think I'll give you two answers to that. One, okay, a little more superficial than the other is, okay, I found myself in a space where, on one hand, there was something that I was very passionate about, what I loved, and I felt was my purpose. And then on the other hand, there was kind of this outer world of, I need to have a job, or I need to make money so that I can survive. And I felt that, passion and purpose, and then profit, on the other hand, were at odds with each other. I got into internet marketing in the late 90s, and then I was also an ordained minister. And what I did is I flip-flopped back and forth between kind of this spiritual seeker, this spiritual pursuit, and then financial pursuit. And it was very tiring. It was exhausting, kind of bouncing back and forth like a game of ping pong between those. When I was working, but my heart really longed to serve. To serve others and to uplift. And then when I was doing that, I was stressed out because, I'm going to have to make a mortgage payment, and this isn't paying the bill, so I've got to. And it was some advice from one of my earliest mentors that really helped me to transform that. And this gentleman, his name was Dr. Stephen Covey, which many will recognize as the author of Seven Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yes.
And he said something that really transformed not only my perspective about myself, but my career and my purpose. He said, Joseph, if you want to be successful, you need to learn how to integrate the spiritual with the secular. And it was music to my ears when he said that. I didn't fully comprehend the how. I didn't really get all of the what behind that, but I knew that I had been, creating this dichotomy between two things, and he really just kind of bridged the gap and said, they don't have to be separate. And it was very pragmatic advice, but it had profound implications because I started realizing, as you were alluding to earlier, that we are not separate. We're not separate from that which we desire. We're not separate from that which we despise. That everything is connected, and any separation that we create is illusion. It's just a story that we tell ourselves in our mind, and that started breaking down, some walls for me, and helped me to cast off some of those stories that I was telling myself that were keeping me separate. Not just from what I was seeking, but also from those around me that I was trying to serve. I thought there was a great distinction, and so that was one. And I guess the other, diving a little more personal, just having a number of traumatic experiences. What I found, we could probably spend an hour talking about, those, but what I took away from them, a common theme, was that when we are in times of difficulty, when bad things happen, whether it's someone passing away, or it's a failure on your part, or something bad has happened to you, or some sort of a tragedy such as a health loss, or whichever. All of these are things that I had experienced. In the moment, I was taking them as, these are crappy things. Why is this happening to me? As if the universe was just taking a giant dump on me, and throughout those, what I really came to learn, the obstacle that I had to overcome, was that there are no obstacles, that everything is a gift of love, if we choose to interpret it that way, to help us to a more full unfolding expression of our divine nature. And we can choose to reject that gift and say, oh, this is a crappy thing that's happening to me right now. Or we can, adopt the belief that everything that's happening to me is calling me to a more full expression of my divine nature. How is this helping? And what I came to see in all of those moments of incredible adversity is that they weren't things that I needed to overcome. They were gifts to purify me.
Right. Yeah, it's not about overcoming life, right? It's about integrating life and learning how to shift our focus to look at how do things serve us, not how do they disempower us.
Exactly. And I often say this, to my clients, is that, it doesn't matter so much that your beliefs are true, as much as it does that they serve you. And that jars people sometimes, but I give a very simple example that, when I play basketball, sometimes I tell myself I'm Michael Jordan. And I have that belief that I am the world's greatest. And it may not be true, but if it gives me confidence and allows me to be more fully present in the moment, to maybe take some of those risks, or to cast off the inhibitions, and to play more fully present, then that is a belief that certainly serves me. But at a deeper level, it's not so much our beliefs as it is, our paradigms. What are those core beliefs?
Right.
And it comes down to, as you were just alluding to, choosing to interpret that life is either for you or against you.
Right.
And when we choose to believe that life is on our side, then it's just a game of reinterpreting, of saying, wow, this looks like life is against me, but at the core, I believe that everything in life is happening for me. I must reevaluate. I need to learn. I need to dig deeper, or I just need to cast off some BS stories that I'm telling myself.
Right. And again, this is not about being sort of Pollyanna, oh, everything's great and wonderful, but it's like really taking a hard look at something and saying, well, it seems like this really sucks, but in what way can this serve me? In what way does this help me? In what way does it make me a better person? In what way does this help me to connect to others? In what way does this teach me I need to take better care of myself so I can help others?
Yeah, I agree completely. I think probably one of the worst things that we can do when something bad happens to us is just say, no, this is great, I'm going to be fine, and just repress those negative emotions, and we see that in so many different ways, whether it's our emotions or whether it's, our natural inclinations, whether it's cultural, societal programs, etc. If we're experiencing something and then we repress it and just push it away, that's taking us out of the flow. And our body's going to carry that. Our mind is creating a belief. Anytime we repress something, what we're doing is creating separation and saying that this is not good. This is not a part of me. I don't like that.
Right.
And we all know that the best way to get rid of an enemy is to make it your friend.
Right.
And so when these things, and we are tempted to see them as bad, come, it's like, no, let's not repress it and pretend. Let's learn to reinterpret it so that we can be at peace with it and let it go.
Right.
We could talk for an hour on this because this is a subject I'm very passionate about. But it's not about pretending. And a friend of mine, once asked me, she said, every day is the best day ever to you. And, don't you ever have a bad day? And I just had to very, quickly say, today is not good because of circumstance. Today is, period. Every day it is what it is. And then it's up to me to choose how to interpret it in my favor or against me. So at the core is life for me or is life against me?
Right. And I just real quickly before we go to break, I just want to say one thing, and that is that, we have a tendency to think that certain emotions are good or bad, but actually they're not. We just need to take the judgment away from it. And if you happen to feel depressed, if you happen to feel sad, if you happen to feel, that's fine. You just feel it. And because when you try and suppress it, as you were saying before, that's when energy gets stuck. That's when, things happen and they get stuck and it end up getting physical. And that's when you have, health issues. And we want to avoid those kinds of things, don't we?
And that is the myth of the Garden of Eden. To throw in a religious concept there, but when you look at it, the fall was something that was introduced when the knowledge or the thought of good and evil was created. Prior to that, there was only unity. Everything was one, and then all of a sudden, now we have this concept of this is good, this is bad. This is right, this is wrong. And we create this illusion of separation. And the process of atonement is one of bringing people together. And so this is not religious, but from a conceptual perspective, we all go through this. We have illusion that separates us. And the process of reconciliation is us feeling at one with ourselves, feeling at one with the universe. And that also includes the people that irritate us, or the situations in life that we're tempted to think suck. It's being at one with those, so that there isn't that packed up emotion, but that there's peace and acceptance and love.
Wonderful. Okay, time for us to take a break. So please hold on. We've got more coming up with Joseph Ranseth, and we're going to talk more about how do we take all this fluffy, energetic stuff and make it real practical. All right? So everybody, please stay tuned. We'll be back in just a moment.